The moment where I said I wanted to be a playwright, I think it was probably when I saw my first play. I was actually in it. I had to be 24 years old, maybe. Up until that point, I wanted to be a novelist. I took a class at a community college. They immediately cast me in this play. I had 2 lines. I had trouble remembering them in the right order, and when I did remember them, nobody could understand what I was saying. But, you know, I had a great time. But sitting backstage, I realized that a play was exactly what I wanted to do as a novelist, with 2 big differences. The first difference was, instead of me giving the story to someone as a novelist, and then that someone goes away and reads it, and then they come back and, you know, a week later and tell me what they thought, I would get to be with the reader, with the audience, while they experienced the story. And I was very excited about that. And the second thing that really drew me to playwriting was that it takes a community of people to tell a story, that they're actors and designers and a director, and it's a community of artists who come together, and they say, and this community of artists, they all have one purpose, and that's to tell a story. And I loved being in a room full of with other artists. Even a history book that appears to tell that appears to stick only to sort of facts is someone's interpretation of facts and someone else's interpretation. You know, even now, you know, we're looking at this nation's view of Columbus, and depending on which sort of history book that you pick up, you're going to read a different story. Even somebody as recent as Helen Keller, you know, who was, you know, icon, middle school, high school icon of inspiration. You pick up one of those books and you think, you know, wow, what accomplishments, but the things they ignore in her life about her socialist activities and about the right wing branding her as a communist and her being one of the founders of the American Civil Liberties Union, that stuff is not covered. And if it is covered, it's covered in a sort of strange way. So even just pure information, the human experience is absolutely so expansive that even if I asked you about going to the grocery store, you would have to be selective in telling me that story. You probably wouldn't talk about the automobiles that you saw along the way because of your focus. So each and every story that we tell, there's a selectivity in that, and that selectivity comes from our individual point of view. And I knew that was, and I know that's what I do in all of my plays, even the ones that say that they're based on historical material. I know that I am viewing this material from my particular point of view. Racism is a mutating virus. And even though it's not the virus that it was 100 years ago, it's still here. It doesn't look like it looked 100 years ago or 30 years ago, but it's here and it is mutated. And, you know, some of my best friends are racist, and I mean hard racist. And, you know, I understand their points of view, and they're cloaked differently. And I think just like, you know, a slave owner 200 years ago, there's a rationale. And as a humanist, part of my goal is to understand that rationale. And once you understand the rationale of racism 100 years ago, once you understand the rationale of slave owning 200 years ago, it becomes easier to spot the racism today because the rationales are pretty much the same. The manifestation of the rationale is different, but the rationales are the same. I have an aunt who is 97 years old. She's blind. She was blinded when she was 4 years old. And she was blind as a result of a very common childhood illness that was easily treatable at the time. But it wasn't treated because Hospitals did not treat Negroes at that time. And as a result, she is blind. So segregation may not be in existence today, but its results are still with us. Make no mistake about that. When I see my aunt, the results are here with us today. The lifetime she has spent in darkness is a result of those segregation practices. So it may be difficult for people to talk about it because, again, while the practice has been eliminated, the results of the practice, like there are some people still suffering from the results of the practice, there are some people who are still enjoying the benefits of the results of the practice.